Introduction. Welcome to this quick refresher on SQL Server Reporting Services, commonly known as SSRS. If you've worked with enterprise reporting in the Microsoft ecosystem, you've almost certainly encountered SSRS. It's been the workhorse of corporate reporting for 2 decades now, and despite newer tools like Power BI entering the scene, SSRS remains deeply embedded in countless organizations. Let's dust off those memories and get you ready to talk about it confidently. Chapter 1. What SSRS is and why it exists. SSRS is a server-based reporting platform that's part of the SQL Server stack. Its core purpose is generating formatted reports from relational data sources, primarily SQL Server, but also Oracle, ODBC connections, and others. Think of it as the tool you use when someone says, "I need a PDF of all our sales by region that I can email to executives every Monday morning." The architecture has three main components. The report server is the engine that processes and renders reports. The report manager, or web portal, provides browser-based access for viewing reports and managing the server. And Report Designer, typically within Visual Studio via SQL Server Data Tools, is where you build the reports themselves. SSRS reports are defined in Report Definition Language, or RDL, which is an XML schema. When you design a report in Visual Studio, you're ultimately creating an RDL file. This file describes everything: the data sources, queries, parameters, layout, formatting, and expressions. RDL files are deployed to the report server, where they're stored and executed on demand. Chapter 2. Report Design Fundamentals. Building a report starts with data sources and datasets. A data source defines the connection to your database, the server name, database, authentication method. Data sources can be embedded within a report or shared across multiple reports. Shared data sources are the better practice for maintainability. When connection strings change, you update one place instead of dozens of reports. Datasets define what data you're retrieving. Each dataset has a query, typically T-SQL, that returns the rows and columns your report will display. Datasets can also be shared, which is useful when multiple reports need the same base data. Dataset queries can include parameters, allowing the same report to show different data based on user input. Parameters are how users interact with reports. A date range parameter lets users specify which period to view. A region parameter filters to specific territories. Parameters can have default values, available values from a query, and dependencies where one parameter selection affects another's options. Multi-value parameters let users select multiple items from a list. The report layout uses data regions to display data. The most common is the tablix, which is a flexible grid that can behave as a table, matrix, or list depending on how you configure it. Tables show data in rows with fixed columns. Matrices pivot data like Excel pivot tables with dynamic rows and columns. Lists repeat a free-form layout for each row of data. Beyond tablix, you have charts for visual representation, bar charts, line charts, pie charts, and many variations. Gauges display single values against a scale. Maps show geographical data. Sparklines and data bars provide compact inline visualizations within table cells. Expressions power dynamic behavior throughout reports. Written in Visual Basic syntax, expressions can calculate values, format data conditionally, show or hide elements, and much more. The most common expression function is probably IIF for conditional logic, but there are functions for aggregation, text manipulation, date math, and navigation between report elements. Understanding expressions is essential for anything beyond basic reports. Chapter 3. Deployment and Execution. Once you've designed a report, you deploy it to the report server. Deployment can happen directly from Visual Studio or by uploading RDL files through the web portal. Reports are organized in folders with security permissions, controlling who can view or manage them. When a user requests a report, the report server processes it. First, it retrieves data by executing the dataset queries against the data sources. Then it renders the report into the requested format. The default is HTML for browser viewing, but SSRS can export to PDF, Excel, Word, CSV, XML, and other formats. This export flexibility is one of SSRS's enduring strengths. Users can view reports online and then download exactly the format they need. Subscriptions automate report delivery. A standard subscription sends a report to specified recipients on a schedule, every morning, every Monday, the first of each month. Data-driven subscriptions are more powerful. They query a database to determine recipients and parameters, enabling personalized reports sent to hundreds of users automatically. Subscriptions can deliver via email or drop files to network shares. Caching and snapshots improve performance for expensive reports. Cached reports store rendered output for a period, serving subsequent requests without re-executing queries. Report snapshots are point-in-time captures, useful for preserving historical data views. Report history maintains multiple snapshots, letting users view the report as it appeared on previous dates. Chapter 4. Security and Administration. SSRS security uses role-based access control. Roles define sets of permissions, viewing reports, managing folders, creating subscriptions. Users and groups are assigned to roles at the folder or item level. The built-in roles cover common scenarios: browser for viewing, content manager for full control, publisher for deploying reports. You can create custom roles for specific needs. Authentication typically integrates with Windows authentication using Active Directory accounts. For internet-facing deployments, you can configure custom authentication or use Forms authentication. The report server enforces permissions both through the web portal and when reports are accessed programmatically. Administration happens through the web portal, Reporting Services Configuration Manager, and SQL Server Management Studio. Configuration Manager handles service accounts, database connections, URLs, encryption keys, and email settings. SSMS provides additional management capabilities and is where you'd configure shared schedules and server-wide settings. Monitoring performance matters for busy report servers. Execution logs track every report run with timing details. You can query these logs to identify slow reports, heavy users, and usage patterns. The report server also exposes performance counters for system monitoring. Chapter 5. Integration and Programmatic Access. SSRS integrates with applications through several mechanisms. The Report Viewer control embeds reports directly in ASP.NET applications, either connecting to a report server or processing reports locally. URL Access lets you construct URLs that render reports with specific parameters and formats. Simple but effective for linking from other applications. The SSRS web services provide full programmatic control. The newer REST API, available in recent versions, offers modern HTTP-based access to report execution and server management. The older SOAP-based APIs remain available for backward compatibility. Report Builder is a simplified design tool for end users. Unlike the full Visual Studio experience, Report Builder provides a more approachable interface for creating and modifying reports without developer tools. It's useful for empowering power users to create their own reports within boundaries IT defines. Chapter 6. Interview Essentials. For interviews, be ready to explain the report development workflow, create data sources, define datasets with queries, design the layout using tables or matrices, add parameters for interactivity, write expressions for calculations and formatting, then deploy to the report server. Know the difference between embedded and shared data sources and why shared is generally preferred. Understand how subscriptions work and when you'd use data-driven subscriptions. Be able to discuss rendering formats and why the export capabilities matter to business users. If asked about performance, mention caching, snapshots, efficient queries, and execution log analysis. For security questions, explain role-based access and how Windows authentication integrates. Common technical questions include: what's the difference between a table and a matrix? A table has fixed columns with data in rows. A matrix pivots data dynamically across both rows and columns. How do you pass parameters between reports? Use the go-to-report action with parameter mappings. What's a subreport versus a drill-through? A subreport embeds one report inside another. A drill-through navigates to a separate detail report when the user clicks. Finally, understand where SSRS fits in the modern landscape. Power BI has taken over interactive analytics and dashboards, but SSRS remains strong for paginated reports, those pixel-perfect, print-ready documents that enterprises still need. Invoices, regulatory filings, operational reports with precise formatting requirements. These are SSRS territory. The two tools complement each other, and many organizations use both. Power BI paginated reports actually uses the same RDL engine as SSRS, so your skills transfer directly to the cloud. Conclusion: SSRS is mature, stable technology that does its job exceptionally well. It's not glamorous, but it reliably produces the formatted reports that businesses depend on every single day. Your experience with SSRS demonstrates that you can work with enterprise reporting requirements, understand data visualization principles, and deliver practical solutions that end users actually use day in and day out. That's valuable experience worth highlighting, and now you're ready to articulate it confidently. End of audiobook. Total word count, approximately 1,500 words. Estimated listening time, 10 to 12 minutes. Good luck with your interviews.